If your life doesn't have anything in it that's beyond self-interest, it's a shallow life. And it's not going to lead you to very many interesting places or relationships that you can count on either. I love talking to kids because there's still time. I had a national park operation. I used to do 100 environmental trips a year. Some for adult organizations, but mostly for kids. Love talking to kids. There's still time. And I tell them what they're not going to hear from anybody else. Makes chaperones nervous sometimes. But I said, hey, first of all, you're the first generation of the information age. The problem is there's way too much information out there. Lots of it has little value at all. The first thing you're going to have to learn is to be sorters. Sorters, because you're just going to get buried under information, a lot of which is irrelevant, a lot of which isn't even true. A lot of what you watch isn't real. Virtual reality isn't reality. Here's reality. Okay? The world's full of it. And that will intersect with your life, whether you like it or not. So first you got to learn to sort and discard. Second of all, while you're watching your virtual reality shows on TV, all of the major events of your life will be determined not at a distance, not at arm's length. They may be facilitated by computer, but all of the really important occurrences in your life and interactions are going to be a direct result of doing this. And they're going to be a result of what you got in here and what you got in here as a real person. And yet, in our modern society, I mean, there are people who text each other across the hallway from adjacent cubicles. I have people in my office sending stuff to each other on their iPhones right now while we're out here talking. Okay? After they ordered the pizza and the Bud Light, which they'll hide before we get back there. It's still always going to be about interpersonal character and what you got in your backpack. Your stuff, your character, your grit. You know, anybody can. The internet is full of imaginary people talking to other imaginary people. Anybody can portray themselves as a good guy or a good lady when there's nothing going on. The test, when you're skipping around a maypole tossing daisies in the air, everybody can be a good person. The test is when the cow crap is in the fan and things are not going well, and then you find out which people think that a promise is only binding until it's difficult to keep. Lots of those on the planet these days. The test of character is when things aren't going well. And if your life is only about yourself and your self-interest, what have you got to share with anybody? You just arm wrestle each other, see who gets most mirror time, admiring themselves. What I try to do every day is talk to kids. I try to tell them the truth. Been around the planet a number of times. Studied all comparative religion. Did some of my graduate work in that. Wrote my thesis in Asian religions. But not in a partisan and parochial notion of religion. I'm talking about human spirituality. Okay? But my comment about that whole genre, which people tend to be nervous talking about, is that having studied all the major religions of the world, having read stuff attributed to most of the prophets, I have a distinct impression that if you got all the great prophets of history together and did lunch, that they'd understand each other. And it'd be a pretty interesting animated conversation. Meanwhile, all their followers in the organized religions that came after them would be out in the parking lot duking each other out and slashing each other's tires in the name of the prophets who were in there talking to each other over lunch. The carpenter is certainly one of the great prophets of history. But then people, of course, forget that the father of Christianity was a cultural Jew. So all that history has to be, and that message was delivered in a cultural context. But the notion that, first of all, any human being has more than a little tiny glimpse of the mind of God or of creative deity or whatever is just absurdly arrogant. Okay? And surely whatever creative deity there is cannot possibly be trapped in between the covers of anybody's holy book. God, the deity is alive and well in the universe, whispering to all of us about doing more with our lives than we're doing. Okay? The interesting comparison between Asian, used to be called Oriental religions, and Judeo-Christian culture is that typically, in broad brush, in Western culture, deity is sort of regarded as an external to humanity, and the notion of grace at God's whim. You know, when he's not arm wrestling with Zeus, they might, grant you some sort of, or intervene in the world. Well, wait, God gave us the planet, we should have been better stewards. Most of our problems are not God's fault at all. And yet with our egocentric culture, when things go well in our lives, we take credit, we blame ourselves, and when things go poorly, we blame God. But in the Asian cultures, typically regard the spark of deity as being lodged inside everybody. The Buddha within, the Bodhisattva, in the Hindu it's the true self, Atman, that the fragment of God is inside, hoping to be discovered and fanned into the candle flame of a life well and meaningfully lived. It's not that complicated. It's not easy to live that way, but the direction that the inward journey should go on is not complicated or obscure. It's just not easy to walk the path. But what else should you be doing? Everything I ever gave away to another pilgrim on the road, I still have. But there's more of what I care about in the universe because they now have it too, and it will blossom to some degree in their lives. I think that's what deity is waiting for and is hoping for. Called by whatever name, organized by whatever doctrine. What the human spirit should, the journey the human spirit should be on is pretty easy to discern. It's not easy to walk the path because of our cultural biases and distractions. We did too well in Western civilization. We did way too well, and we got distracted by material success and worldly power and all of those other things. You don't get to take any of that stuff with you. Never saw a hearse towing a U-Haul trailer.